We are live, and our participants are coming in. Okay. So up on the screen. Tony, we're going to need you to turn down the volume in here. Can you do that? The volume from the projector. There we go. Better? Okay.
That just ended the echo.
Great. Okay, so while folks are coming in, I just want to share that we are, again, holding this meeting as a hybrid, where some of us are here in the Wagner Room, others are in different remote locations, and that what we're working to do is to stream this live on YouTube while simultaneously recording it so that we can then post it later to our website, where it's a pretty complex setup here, so we're going to do our best to navigate it, and we're going to ask, as we have been often lately, for patience in case we have a technical glitch, but we'll work through it as best we can. Okay, so we've equalized at about 37 attendees. Why don't we take it away?
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the September 8th meeting of the New Canaan Board of Education. First on the agenda is to approve our minutes from the August 24th meeting. Is there a motion? Julie, second. Deanna, all in favor? Okay. Next is to review and approve the agenda for this evening. Is there a motion? Sherry, second. Carl, all in favor? Okay. Comments from the public. To ensure the public's right to be heard, the board has set aside time during the meeting for public comments. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to each subject. If there is anyone wishing to address the board, we would ask that you just raise your hand using the feature in Zoom, and Dr. Lutzy will move you over.
Okay, so it looks like Valentina is our first. Valentina?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. On behalf of the New Canaan community, we are thrilled to see that the Board of Education is pursuing efforts to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion into New Canaan public schools. These goals signify huge progress towards increasing awareness and education about racial discrimination. As you continue these efforts, we urge members of the board to measure progress through concrete action items and metrics that are SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timed, such as hiring a Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to implement further professional development and training for faculty, and hiring to match and/or exceed the state average for percentage of BIPOC faculty. We also urge the board to seek out the perspectives and opinions of alumni, current students, parents, and faculty, as we believe their feedback will be most valuable in directing the implementation of positive changes to programming and curriculum. Voting in the new goals is an excellent first step, but we must continue the momentum of this work into the upcoming school year and beyond. With that in mind, our group and others in our network plan to continue to attend board meetings and look forward to hearing periodic updates and reviewing metrics on progress being made towards furthering diversity, equity, and inclusion in New Canaan public schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Say again. Okay. Okay.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to reports and recognition. And first, very exciting, we get to hear from our principals on the opening day reports. We're looking forward to that. And Dr. Lutzy, do you want to kick us off?
I do. I just need a moment to move our principals over to join us as panelists. One moment. Okay. Matt and Okay. There we go. Welcome to our principals. I want to just briefly share that our principals have, as you can imagine, been working tirelessly throughout the summer and certainly these last couple of weeks to get our buildings open and get things rolling. We had a very successful week last week. We had a great day today as we get things underway, and I'll give them the opportunity to share some details with you about their individual buildings. But the great work going on in our schools, the ability to get to where we are today, all really hinges on their amazing work and dedication and everything that they've been doing on behalf of our children. So I just want to say thank you and welcome. And why don't we, I did not give them an order beforehand. We've been meeting daily for the last 2 weeks, and they sort of share an update from each of their buildings. And sometimes we start in the elementary, sometimes we start at the high school. Today we actually started in the middle. So I think today we'll start at the elementary, if that's all right, and we'll start with Principal Murphy, if you don't mind. Jan, is that all right with you?
That's fine with me, thanks. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's doing really well. We had a very successful week last week, our very first week. I think the students who really got the routines down the quickest were our kindergarten students, who were able to come every single day. By Thursday, they were pros at knowing how to get off the bus and knowing where to go and knowing how to keep social distance. So today was our first day with the live streaming, and all went really well. Well, I'll go ahead and start off with this year. We welcomed 421 students to West School. Some of those are remote learners. We had 37, which is high for us, brand new students to West this year. So on Thursday, August 21st, Mrs. Fernari and I had a virtual New to West, and we used the opportunity to teach them about the X and Y cohorts, because in our office, 2 of our secretaries are in the X cohort and 2 of us are in the Y cohort. So we explained all of that to them. We are at 22 sections at West. This year we have 4 sections of grade K with 78 students. We have 5 sections. That was an increase from last year with 86 students in grades 1. We have in grade 2, 4 sections with 79 students in grade 2. Grade 3, we dropped 1 section. We went from 5 to 4 sections with 77 students. And then grade 4 remained the same number of sections with 101 students. So overall, from last year to this year, we maintained the 22 sections, although it's just shifted a little bit which grades they're in. I thought it would be important to note that we have a certain number of remote learners. By grade, we have 2 kindergarten students. We have 8 remote learners in grade 1, 1 in grade 2, 5 in grade 3, and 4 in grade 4. And again, that can change at any time. We welcomed our teachers back the week of August 24th. I guess the mantra for the year is same but very different. The school looked different. Each of our classroom setups in grades K through 1 were the same all across the district. We used plexiglass to put on the tables to keep that distance and to keep the kids safe. In grades 2, 3, and 4, we used individual classroom desks that were spaced as far apart as we could get them in the classroom. And we also provided K through 2 with cube chairs, mats, and optional seating arrangements for kids so that they could use those instead of just sitting at a desk all day. We have given students lessons about hand hygiene. We've created outdoor learning spaces for students so they can go outside, take mask breaks. We've taught them about wearing masks. We have really nice, thanks to Joanne Keating, Westy Whale social distancing markers on our floors so that it's very easy for kids to really know and learn what that 6 feet looks like. We've got hand sanitizing stations throughout the school. And again, the plexiglass on our tables in the lunchroom. On Friday, August 28th, all of our students, grades 1 through 4, held a virtual meet and greet for their students. So they welcomed their new class, much in the same way that we're doing tonight. And then that afternoon, our 4 kindergarten students, and we did this across the district, held a cute kindergarten parade where the kids got to decorate their cars and meet their teachers. And our PTC gave out insulated bags with Westy Whale masks for kids to wear to school. It was a great first day at West. Today with the live streaming, we saw a lot of community building with teachers, trying to get the students who are live in front of them to meet and get to know some of their classmates who are remote at home. So they did a lot of morning meeting activities, interactive meetings, closing circles, and we continue our work on emotional intelligence. And our school goal for this year, one of our school goals is to continue our work on empathy and implementation of the ruler program. So overall, we've had a great opening considering the circumstances. It took a lot of work from a lot of people. And so we're very fortunate to, I told the staff a couple of days ago, we are very fortunate to be able to work in New Canaan and deliver education to the children in our district. We're very proud of that. So thank you.
Great. We'll move through the principals and then save questions for the end or comments for the end. Great. Principal Wallach.
Thank you. So I'll echo much of what Ms. Murphy just shared. We have also had a wonderful opening at East. Our sort of theme, I suppose you might call it, has been small moments. That we really, as the staff came back and even as children came back, we talked a lot about the small moments that we each experienced over the summer. It was a summer of small moments and celebrating those small moments and carrying that forward to speak about how important it is in these early days and throughout the year to continue to keep taking that time to celebrate those small moments and be there to do that together. So we are looking at preserving all of the traditions that we have at East School, but looking at them in new ways and reformatting some of those traditions to create new memories and new small moments. So similar to what you heard for West, we had our New to East in a virtual environment as we welcomed approximately 35 new students in grades 1 through 4. And this was prior to the opening of school. We also had our kindergarten parade for the incoming kindergartners, which was really an opportunity for teachers to be able to see those kindergartners before the first day and for the kindergartners to see their teacher. It was really a lovely event, and the virtual meet and greets. East also has a tradition on the Sunday before students return to school of coming together as a school community, and we felt that was very important to maintain that tradition. So this year it was done virtually, and with the help of some creative staff members that we had a wonderful Welcome Back East event that was virtual. It included some East School trivia, it included our East School song, it included teacher baby picture matches, and just fun events that celebrated who we are at East School as a community. We also used it as an opportunity to introduce to our students what the building would look like, because they had not been in the building since March, and those who were new hadn't seen our building. And so we had some videos of what it looked like with our social distancing tape on the floor that mapped out color-coded paths for students at each grade level. So that way, when students arrived on the first day, they knew the color that they would be looking for when they arrived and would enter through either the bus platform or through our main entrance. We also were able to show them what the classrooms would look like, so that second, third, and fourth graders would anticipate the desks that they would be sitting at. Their first graders and kindergartners could see the tables with the plexiglass. They could see the cafeteria with the plexiglass. We wanted them to have a sense that it was the same but different. We also introduced what some of the staff members, they would be seeing what they would look like both with their masks on and without their masks on, because seeing staff with the masks we knew for young children would be different. So we used our Welcome Back event to acclimate them to what the new school year would be like. And that was on Sunday, and on Monday, our first cohort arrived, and it was a very smooth day, a very smooth week, where our students were learning all of these new routines. We are welcoming this year 555 students to school at East. We have 29 sections at most of our grade levels. We have 6 sections, the exception being our 3rd grade, which has 5 sections. We also welcomed many new staff members this year. So we have a total of 7 new staff members, many in classroom positions. We also have a new reading specialist, a new science teacher, And we also have 2 long-term subs. So we had a lot of new staff that we were welcoming as well. But everyone has adjusted very well to the new procedures, and our students and our staff have connected over the past week and now today with the live streaming as well to build that sense of community. That's so important when they're moving into the learning that's ahead. Our specials program has moved into classrooms for their instruction. They spent last week getting to know classes in person, and then today they began moving into the virtual sort of remote learning as well in their specials program. So that's our science teacher coming into the classroom. For our PE teacher, he will come into the classroom, but then most often is moving students outside for their PE class. Our arts program, we have our arts teacher who will come in and is conducting her art lessons in the classroom and also remotely, as I saw today. And our music teacher also is doing the same, a lot of work with tempo and rhythm. So it's allowing us to maintain the strong programs that we have just in a new environment, so to speak, as they move into classrooms. Looking ahead, we are looking to continue to grow the live streaming work. You know, our teachers are off and running with it today. We'll continue to refine that. We're also looking ahead to using our outdoor spaces. They've been used for mask breaks, but now we'll be moving into how we can use them as learning environments as well. We have our tents ready and are looking for classes to be moving there for some of the learning. We also are looking ahead this year to continue some of the work that we started last year just before closure, where we as a school and actually as a district had some professional learning around culturally responsive children's literature, and really looking to ensure that our classroom libraries and our library selections in the building represent a wide range of learners that we have, both to provide them, all of our learners with mirrors and windows, it's called. So ways that we're exposing students to a wide variety of cultures and people, and continuing to grow that in our staff as well. So our school librarian, Lindsay, library media specialist, Lindsay Stillwell, worked throughout the summer to gather new titles. So our library has many new titles that she's now moving into classrooms with. And our PTC is looking in this year ahead to be supporting through some of their fundraising efforts, our classroom libraries. And we look forward to allowing our teachers to have a wonderful opportunity to continue to diversify the books in the classroom libraries. And finally, just a thank you to our PTC for all of their support throughout the summer, to our cafeteria staff, because lunches are looking a little different now. They've been working hard to deliver lunches to the classrooms, and then we have others coming into the cafeteria and buying their lunch. So they're sort of managing that very smoothly. Our custodial staff has worked tirelessly throughout the summer and really had our building looking terrific as we opened. And on that note, also a thank you to our maintenance staff. We have a wonderful new roof. Thank you to the Board of Education for their support of that as well. The solar is going on as well there, and we are just thrilled to have that project come to fruition and see it come to such a smooth, wonderful sort of culmination now. So it's a wonderful beginning of the year, and we look forward to continuing that in these weeks ahead.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Next, we have our new principal over at South Elementary School, although he's no stranger to anyone. In a typical year, Matt would have come before the board to say hello and have some conversation. But as we know, it's not a typical year. So I am pleased and really thrilled to introduce him formally to the Board of Education tonight. But you know Matt, he was a long-term assistant principal over there at South, and now as our principal there, he certainly jumped in with both feet, and he's moving things forward in all the right ways. So, Matt, how are things going over at South?
Things are going well, Brian. It's been an interesting year to get promoted. Overall, we've had a very smooth start. Of course, the other thing is now I have to follow Chris and Jan and not sound like I copied everything from them, although they have been absolutely wonderful in supporting me in this transition. So I thank Jan and Chris, as well as Dave and Bill, for being great colleagues. So our new motto this year at South comes right from our ruler program, particularly from the Meta Moment tool, which encourages us all to be our best selves. So our new motto at South is be your best self. You'll see signs around the building, and we're encouraging staff, students, everyone to be their best selves as often as they can be, and to engage in what we've learned from the ruler program the last few years when maybe you're not being your best self. With that said, we ended last year thinking we were going to be down 2 sections from 27 to 25, which would have been the lowest number of classes we've had at South in my 16-year tenure there as assistant principal. But enrollment fluctuated all summer long, right up until today, as a matter of fact. We had a new registration, new kindergarten registered. Well, actually, he registered late Friday afternoon. So we're back up to 27 sections. We have 4 kindergartens, 6 first grades, 5 second grade, 6 third, and 6 fourth grade. And our largest grade level is first grade with 118 students. We've welcomed 37 new students in grades 1 through 4, along with our 82 new kindergartners. And coincidentally, we have 37 remote learners right now. And somewhat surprisingly to me, at least, the highest number, the range is 2 to 13, with only 2 kindergartners, but 13 fourth graders have chosen, their parents have chosen remote learning for them. Our staff, we've welcomed 2 new classroom teachers, a new challenge teacher who has come full circle, Maggie Joyce, who will be working at all 3 elementary buildings. Maggie was a teacher at South many years ago. She left actually the year I came in as assistant principal. She was a kindergarten and second grade teacher over the years at South. She's returned as our challenge teacher this year. We have 1 new SPED resource teacher, and we're sharing a 0.5 psychologist with East as our numbers in special education are up a little bit. We have 4 new teaching assistants and 2 new interns, and we're still looking to hire 2 regular ed teaching assistants so that we'd be fully staffed. But for the most part, everybody has returned. We did have 2 teachers who got married over the summer and now go by different last names. So we congratulated them. It's always great to share good news when we come back. The week of August 24th, our teachers really seemed to appreciate the extra PL time as they came back together after almost 6 months of being apart and reconnecting with each other, as well as connecting with their students that week. As Chris and Jan mentioned, we did meet and greets that week virtually. And of course, we welcomed our kindergartners as well with a kindergarten parade that week. But I really think that the teachers appreciated having that time to do some training with the new technology and getting together with their colleagues and working on planning the opening of school, because as you can imagine, everybody was a little nervous and not sure how things were going to go. Overall, our days have been going very well since the students showed up on the 31st. We all had a little trepidation about arrival because so many parents responded to Brian's survey that they would not be participating in bus service. So we were imagining drop-off was going to take for hours, but it's taking our normal amount of time because it's only half the kids. And our dismissal at the end of the day, first day was a little long, but we're cutting time off of it each day, and we're down to about what we normally would do with in the past with full 100% attendance. So if we do go back to 100% attendance, we'll see how it goes. But right now we're doing pretty well with dismissing, loading the buses, loading the cars, and getting the students home in a timely manner. I do know that the bus ridership seems to be going up. Our morning ridership ranges from 4 to about 20 on the bus, but today I counted 1 bus where 29 kids actually got on the bus to go home. So I think we have more riders going home in the afternoon. Mitigation strategies. Our students and staff have been very good about wearing masks and their face shields as per the instructions we've given them. I walked into a kindergarten classroom and the teacher was doing some phonics works, and she had just the face shield on. She was more than 6 feet away from the kids, but one of the little boys said, "You can't take your face mask off. Mommy said we have to keep them on all day." So we had to let the boy know that it was okay as long as she had the shield on and she was that far away from him. The inside floor decals have really helped us in reminding students to remain appropriately distanced, and we have lovely blue paw prints painted on the outside sidewalks in the front of the school and the bus platform, and we're going to have more added to the lower playground and the back sidewalk in the next coming week. We've been tracking visitors to classrooms. If other teachers or staff are going into classrooms to either support students or the teachers, they're signing in and out. So if we have to do contact tracing in the future, we know who's been in and out of each room. Teachers are making, as Chris mentioned, use of the outdoor spaces whenever possible to allow for mask breaks. We have 2 tents, the courtyard, the lower playground, our garden area, picnic tables, and our bus platform are all spaces that are being used for outdoor mask breaks and some instruction. And I have to say, after 16 years of being in that lunchroom a lot, we right now have the quietest lunchroom I've ever been in because it's only at 50% capacity. So that's been quite enjoyable. We have our virtual open houses coming up. K1 and 2 are next Tuesday, and grades 3 and 4 are on the 22nd. So that's our next step, is planning those so that we can give some more information about the program, the curriculum program, and what the kids will be doing all year to the parents. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Matt. Oh, who's talking?
That is.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Tony, turn Matt back on.
Matt.
Go ahead, Matt.
Did I just free? This came yesterday at 4:50 p.m. Dear Mr. Kaskak, my husband and I wanted to say thank you for a fantastic first week of school. We were blown away by the level of preparedness the teachers and staff exhibited, as well as their warmth and energy as they welcomed the students back to school. We can't imagine how many extra hours you have put in behind the scenes to make this year possible for our children. We are so grateful for your efforts and look forward to a happy and healthy year for everyone. We hope you have enjoyed the beautiful weather this weekend. We look forward to seeing you at school this week. And we get a lot of those verbal compliments as we're unloading cars in the morning and loading cars in the afternoon. So it's just those little emails and those little thank yous that make it all worth it. So.
That's great. Thank you, Matt. All right, Principal Gussich.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lutzy. Greetings, members of the Board of Education, Central Office leadership, those in attendance, and those tuning in live. It is an honor and a pleasure to stand virtually and speak on behalf of Sachs Middle School. I want to say a big thank you to all who had a role in having the building ready physically and logistically. It looked amazing and was ready to welcome back our approximately 1,350 students and almost 200 staff members, with almost 20 of those being new to us. We had a little highlight in our most recent Sachs Weekly with a little update on a little bit about them, getting to know them as people as we welcome them into our community. But this does include those thanks go out to our custodial maintenance staff, our secretaries, the tech team, our admin team, and of course, our teachers, faculty, and staff. With the help of our wonderful PTC, who's always ever supportive of us, we're able to welcome everybody back in spirited style with some updated logos around and some upbeat music as we welcomed our students in at both entrances, and that keeps going each morning. And it goes without saying, excuse me, that our launch to this school year was anything but normal. Today happening to be our first day of the school year. But that, to be perfectly honest with you, I think it has gone exactly as planned, and I don't know if I'd want to try it in any different manner. However, many aspects that we will continue to maintain a laser focus on include upholding the highest level of academic excellence, We'll continue to focus on educating the whole child in a well-rounded experience. And as you're aware, this is critical during this ever-changing developmental phase where we like to affectionately say our kids are quote unquote under construction. I've used that quote before, but it truly does represent our middle school students, and we relish the opportunity to come to work every day on that work site. So what is consistent for us? Our 5 C's, that we have been using as a really a focus for us, celebrating our community through caring, commitment, and communication. Sharing out information, updates, and celebrations through our SACS Weekly, through social media, and hopefully we'll be able to continue SACS News in some capacity. And our focus this year is going to be on that C of community. We began the year with some virtual meet and greets. We have upcoming virtual coffees and open houses, and we continue to communicate wherever possible everything that is going on within our community, so people have a clear understanding of what's going on and are open to ask any questions at any time. In terms of our physical plant, I want to give a big thank you to Dan Clark and his team, as well as Dr. Keating, in overseeing everything, the roof that is going on over the cafeteria, the exterior brickwork that took place during our e-learning, as well as over the summer, and some of the sidewalk fixes have our physical plant looking tremendous. In terms of some of the things that have evolved, our cohorts. So we have 4 pure team cohorts at each grade level. We have 8 sections at the 5th grade level. We have approximately 80 remote learners who join our classes as of today, which we're excited. That's our 3rd day 1 of the 3. And with this, I want to commend our world language and special area teachers, music, art, PE, health, because in order to maintain our cohorts, they have been adaptable and traveling the building to classrooms that are all in or near our core classes, all in the name of safety, to ensure that we keep our students in pretty close proximity and they're not traveling throughout the building and crossing over as they get from class to class. So we're fortunate in the sense that we do get to have some movement between and amongst classes, as well as utilizing some of those outdoor spaces. But we've really been able to get everything set where they're not going all over the building. Our arrival, which started with a video prior to the first day of school to kind of map out the outline that we bring our kids into school. It's been successful. Our dismissal has, as you've heard with my elementary colleagues, has been tightened up, and we have it down to a pretty well-oiled machine at this point. Our schedules and transitions have continued to evolve. We've been able to maximize some of that time to ensure that everybody has the time in between classes that they need to get where they're going and get kids safely there. And then as we reclaimed a little bit of that time from arrival and dismissal, and then our environment within the building. So some of the already mentioned plexiglass dividers. We have our divided hallways that include our prescribed routes. Our outdoor environments, and those awesome distancing markers that were referenced earlier as well, that have our SACS Hawks logo on it. So, which is pretty exciting. And then obviously our live streaming, which kicked off today. It's been an exciting start there. We will continue with some of our executive functioning boot camps that help with our students planning, organizing, and processing, which is obviously important now more than ever. We'll continue with our connections and focusing on our EI work that has been ongoing over the last several years, and opportunities to build and foster on community in our formats such as our grade level and town hall meetings, with the former that will be taking place this Thursday and Friday, which really does allow us to provide students to have voice and choice. Our focus is to continue to develop kind, well-rounded people in our students and within our community. And there's no higher compliment than to hear a student or a parent report that they are enjoying their experience at SACS. Unfortunately, grateful that many of these have occurred over the last couple of weeks as we've gotten underway. And to be honest with you, I feel a little guilty being on the receiving end of people thanking me, because it's been such a huge team effort. And, I'd be remiss if I didn't give credit to all those who were involved in making this whole operation come together. It truly was the most amazing team experience I've ever been involved with, not only in education, but overall. So most of all, it's worth noting that our community felt safe upon everybody's return. This was true for our staff, our students, and their families. And this was a driving force from day one, even going back to March. And we're so fortunate to have Dr. Lutzy and the central office team leading the charge on this, is they always seem to have their priorities straight and lead with what's most important. It was amazing to see the dynamic of the building change from summer planning to arrival of staff, and then finally the ultimate prize, which was welcoming our students back. It truly feels like a school again, and it feels like it should. So in closing, I want to thank you, the Board of Education, and the community for your continued support. Your Sachs Middle School team looks forward to working together to make 2020-21 the best year yet.
Great. Thank you, Dave. And last but never least, Principal Egan.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. You know, honestly, after everybody else goes, I feel like I could say just ditto and kind of stop there, or you know, it's very difficult to follow them. They're all very well-spoken, accomplished people. So, but anyway, thank you for having me here tonight. It's always a privilege to speak to the Board of Education, and I'm thankful to lead New Canaan High School, truly the finest high school in the state of Connecticut and one of the finest in the country. You know, the start of every year is always exciting to me. I look forward to it very, very much. The thrill of seeing the kids outside coming back into school, it's one of the best enjoyments I could ever have. You know, that didn't really include a pandemic year. This year I felt butterflies like I was playing a sporting event, you know, but really every day. It hasn't really gone away, but truly the beginning of the year is something I love. This year was a little different. You know, it's not what I was accustomed to. It's been challenging for all of us, staff, students, parents. The district administrators, staff, and community members have spent the summer preparing and getting ready for this. Really, as David said, it's really been a team effort. You know, truly, we all know the gravity of not having students attend school in person. And we wanted to make sure that we'd be able to provide a safe and supportive learning environment with limited class interruptions. It seems like an absurd statement to make during a pandemic. However, I feel blessed to work in this district because I do believe we've set the stage for a successful school year. You know, I'd like to thank our facilities team led by Dan Clark and Scott Olson, and our custodial staff but led by David Reyes, our secretaries for their Herculean efforts. They do an outstanding job getting the building ready and meeting safety guidelines and getting PPE in place for all teachers and students as well. You know, the professional learning days that we had in the beginning of the year were necessary for us to help us navigate the opening of schools. I was inspired to learn alongside our teachers and educators and get ready for the arrival of students. There definitely was some apprehension and some fear, but also an excitement of getting back to somewhat normal. You know, truthfully, the staff needed the kids back, and the kids needed to be here. Our staff knows the importance of having students back in the building, has worked hard to create a loving, caring, and nurturing environment that welcomes all learners, whether they're in person or learning remotely from home. With any great challenge comes opportunity and excitement with reinventing the way we educate children. Our first week marked an opportunity to get to know students, build relationships, and provide a smooth transition back to school with our X and Y cohorts. Today, we marked our first day of live streaming, which went really, really well. Administrators have been in and out of classrooms, and students are engaged with their teachers and each other. We can only improve in a system that has already been working. I'm sure will be some glitches along the way, but together we'll be able to fix that. Our talented tech team and help desk is in place to support us, and we should be able to tackle any issues quickly with patience and flexibility. New Canaan High School is fortunate to have the finest group of educators and support staff, and I consider myself fortunate to call them colleagues and friends. As many of you know, we have transitioned to a rotating block schedule with 85 minutes for each block. Classes can get deeper into a subject and also provides for a safer environment for our students, remaining in classes longer and minimizing passing time in the hallways. Additionally, it allows teachers a chance to get students outside for mass breaks, and we have tons of outside space where teachers are utilizing right now for classroom instruction. The longer time also enables students to leave campus, giving off-campus permission with parent permission, and return when they have class. Our school times remain the same minus our half-day professional learning. We're happy to welcome 9 new staff members to our NCHS family. As we know, being new is always a challenge, but our new members are transitioning well, working on building relationships with students and staff. I'd be remiss if I did not thank our PFA and our entire parent community. The continued and generous support they provide to help make the school better is invaluable and greatly appreciated. I am lucky to work with parents that are so invested in the education of their children. They have raised wonderful children and to find young people who are kind and genuinely good to each other. Finally, I'd like to give a special shout out to our central office team, Dr. Lutzi and everyone. We're very lucky to have a group of administrators to be able to work together. I actually said to Dr. Correnti the other day, there's no other place I'd rather work. Truly, it's been a wonderful team effort. And a special thank you to you, our Board of Ed members. I've worked in many school districts, and this Board of Ed is always professional, challenges us to do our best to provide great education for our students, but also supporting us along the way. So thank you for the opportunity to lead New Canaan High School, and I could not think of a better place to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you to all 5 of our distinguished principals. Comments, questions, anything from the board?
Deanna, go ahead.
Sorry. Thank you, everyone, for getting all the New Canaan kids into school this year. I know it was a Herculean effort, and your efforts are greatly appreciated by the community, so thank you. Quick question for Bill. How many remote learners do you have so far at the high school? 83?
It was 83 the other day, but that's not the exact number.
Okay.
Close.
And I guess this would be for everyone. On average, how many mass breaks are we getting our kids a day? You know, I mean, how many times are they getting out and being able to sort of just be able to have some fresh air? And so,
You know, we basically say 1 a block. That's just for us.
Bill, can you repeat that, please?
For us, I would say it's 4. One a block. We ask teachers to get the students out.
Go ahead, Jen.
Sorry, I'm muted. At the elementary level, I think a lot of it depends on the age of the child. So we're giving our youngest students a lot of breaks. They have recess built into their daily schedule so that when they're out at recess, as long as they're 6 feet apart, they can have a mass break. But like I said earlier, every single classroom has been assigned a specific outdoor learning center or a learning area. And in some cases, it might be a small group out there where the teacher kind of they're sitting in cube chairs, taking a mass break, maybe just reading a book. Other cases where they're all going out and the teacher's reading a book to the class or a read aloud. So I do have to say that the feedback we've been getting from students and from parents has been very positive with the number of breaks that we've been allowing students to have. So,
If I could add, our teachers have almost universally been using the outdoor space as classroom instruction space. So almost every class has gone outside at one point to work with their students.
And I saw Matt and Chris shaking their head yes. So we'll go to Dave.
Sure. Thank you. And I'd say at the middle school level, we have a goal of about 3 to 4 based on the lunch recess block. We do have a lot of our teachers that will take their classes outside to transition between classes. So if they're going to a special area or they're going back to their classroom from lunch. And then the outdoor learning spaces as well, which they're taking advantage of. So we are continuing to encourage that as much as possible. We haven't received feedback that it's not enough. Obviously, we always want to try and get them out as much as we can, but we're certainly cognizant of what it's like to wear a mask all day.
thank you. And then just the last question is, it was encouraging to hear so many kids are starting to take the bus again. How are we managing with the transitioning numbers? I mean, I know Roy's not here, but it sounds like a big challenge to manage that.
I'll speak to that briefly. them expecting to.
Go ahead, Jen.
So I just want to also, oh, this is right? Okay. I also just wanted to kind of reiterate, say what Deanna said. I mean, what our schools have pulled off is incredible. I mean, Brian and your team and the teachers, the administrators, everybody. I mean, parents are so joyful that their kids are happy and they're back in school. And I know there was some hesitation and about the masks and whatever, but even, you know, talking to, I have a sophomore and some of her friends, and they're like, we are just so happy to be back. We don't care. You know, Abby, you know, today was her remote day. So she comes down, you know, oh, it's mask break. I'm like, what are you doing down here? She's like, oh, it's mask break. So she's like, I don't have to wear a mask, but like, they're just so happy to be together. And the teachers, I mean, they are incredible and they're so passionate and excited and they're so caring. And, you know, we've just gotten such tremendous feedback. I actually had a friend tell me this past weekend that someone in her family is a superintendent in a district in New York. And they're like, we're doing everything New Canaan's doing, or we're trying to keep up. So thank you for all you guys have done. It's really been an incredible thing to witness and to watch, and to see all these kids so happy is so great. I also was going to ask a little bit about the busing. I'm just wondering, are we tracking the riders? Like, you know, I see some buses and I see like 2 people in them, and then, you know, the next bus I see like, you know, 10. So are we tracking the ridership just to kind of see that, you know, how comfortable people are with that? And then I know they mentioned how the East School traffic is, but like, and is there problems at West? You know, the high school seems like that's doing really well. I haven't really heard anything about traffic patterns or.
Again, I'll give a brief answer, and if anyone has anything to add, just signal. We do track the ridership on the buses. You know, as we develop the routes, we develop them with a hybrid in mind, but not knowing who would opt into remote or who wouldn't be. But since we have our full complement of buses and we're running at 50% and many are being driven, some of those larger buses do only have a couple of kids. Some of them have more. Matt, as you heard Matt share, that one bus that had 20 now has 28. I mean, that's the level of detail that we're looking at this, even at the building level. Roy does have a list every day of the students that are riding and what have you, and who is expected to and who is or isn't. Quick story, Matt shared this morning as well, or this afternoon, that this morning at 7:20, right outside of the high school, there was no traffic at all. And that's never happened. Like, even when we don't have school, sometimes that doesn't happen. And it was because of the road that was put in and everything that we've been doing. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So we've been working, the timing on dismissal and arrival, our principals and our assistant principals have been working very closely on that. And it's been getting better and better, you know, as we've been doing it. Parents have learned the new routines because we've changed the traffic flow a little bit here and there. But it's working. And I think that even over at West, we're not seeing big problems in the morning or in the afternoon. It's not quite the same timing. It still takes a little bit longer, but it certainly has improved since the first day and gets a little bit better each day. And if there's anything to add, feel free.
We've had a little bit of an increase in ridership on the buses. We've got as many, on some buses, are the bigger ones, as many as 24 and 25 students. We have 3 buses with 24 or 23 students. But for the most part, in the morning especially, the parents kind of spread out the time they come, so there's never really a traffic log there. First couple of days, we got stuck with the buses unloading one at a time because the routines were new for students, but they've really learned, you know, how to just get off the bus, go into the building, and we haven't really seen a lot of traffic on PONUS. So
Great.
And I know, just to speak for East, arrival, we've really, it's continued to improve. We appreciate our parent population, their cooperation. We've put in a system where we ask parents who are driving to come in through the Silvermine entrance into Little Brook, and to allow our buses to come through the 123. entrance into Little Brooks, so that we can have our buses have a clear circle and our cars that are dropping off or picking up at the end of the day to have a clear loop as well. So that has been helpful. The dismissal time is still a challenge, and we're working on that. We had great cooperation from New Canaan Police Department, who are helping us to continue to look at that. But certainly each day is getting better and better.
Great, thanks.
Okay, I think I may have seen some hands raised. Oh, Sherry?
So I first just want to echo all of the positive feedback that Jen had, and I've had many parents share just positive stories with me. One parent said he actually cried when the bus pulled away with his child. And I think I just want to call out Mr. Gussage's comment that, here's to like making the 2020-21 school year the best year ever. And I think it just so perfectly sums up the positive attitude of the New Canaan Public Schools administration, that even amid a pandemic, we still have that goal of making this the best school year ever. I think that's just such an incredible statement that Mr. Gussage put in there. Also, I just want to say that again, like what we've accomplished in terms of coming back into this hybrid model is so incredible. And I just hope that all of the administration, the principals, teachers are so proud. And for me, as both a board member, as a parent, I know that we're now facing into a fall winter season of uncertainty, but based on this experience, I now have the confidence to know that this district can handle any adversity, anything that comes up. I'm quite confident that this district can handle it. So that's just such an incredible feeling. My one question was about the food service, and I'm sure that I'm getting particular grumbles from my kids who are, foodies at heart. But I know you've had to scale back the food service offerings so that you can, process, the food service with health and safety in mind. But can you just talk to kind of what the food service offerings are, if they're going to remain, if the plan is that those will remain for the full year, or as we get comfortable with the the processing, will we go back to kind of a more expanded offering?
Dr. Keating, would you like to respond?
Sure. Yeah, so you're correct, Sherry. We had to scale back the offerings at all the schools because of the timing and really just processing kids in a safe way through the lines. So we did revert back to 3 to 4 offerings at the high school, for example, where kids could get in line and go to the grill. They could go to a salad bar. They could go to the deli and the hot lunch every day, and we could keep them separated out. But our plan really is to grow into it. As kids get used to what the distancing rules are, we're expecting that they're going to be able to fall into new procedures, or, if we expand the offerings to more a la carte like we've had in the past, that they will just conform to what our procedures are. So we're hopeful to get the program back eventually, slowly throughout the year to where it was. It's a successful program. The kids love the program, and we want to feed them. And we all appreciate food, and I'm glad to hear your kids are foodies because they need good nutrition, and we have a good program. So that's our goal, definitely.
Great, thank you. And just also acknowledging that at the same time, I think for the first time at Saks, they're not using their lockers because of the hybrid model. So so there's the logistical challenge of bringing your lunch. So thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Go ahead, Brendan.
I just want to say thank you, and I don't want to repeat others, but what you're pulling off is just mind blowing to me, and I'm sure a lot of others in the community. And I don't talk a lot about my own kids, but seeing my own kids, head off to school last week and this week was pretty amazing and emotional, and just to think of everything that. All the work that all of you put in and everybody's putting in daily to make sure all of this goes off, and kids and teachers and staff are safe. Just want to say thank you.
All right, and I'll just echo what everyone else said. This is such a moment of pride and gratitude for our district and all of you who've worked so incredibly hard. over these last 6 months to get us to this point. And so I just echo everyone else by saying thank you. What stood out to me the most as a board member and also as a parent is just how caring everybody has been. And the teachers have prioritized, meeting kids where they are and understanding that everyone's sort of handled this pandemic differently. And so I think that has stood out as a theme, and I think it's so important to keep that in mind as we all integrate back to this same but different, and celebrating those small moments. I love what each of you said, and being your best self. So thank you all, and here we go.
It's great. Great. Well, thank you. Penny?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I don't have kids now, but I've heard such positive comments from my friends who still do. And one mom today said, oh, last year my kids were really grumbling about going back to school. And this week, even during the long weekend, they were so excited to go back. And they were so thrilled to be back in school. And she thought the first few days of school had gone incredibly well. So thank you to the whole team. And I also just wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to Tiger Man for getting that extra exit road in, which is helping with the traffic at the high school. That was a multi-variable project, and he handled it all and promised it to us and delivered. So thank you to everybody, the central office, all the principals, all their staff for doing an amazing job. For David, I had a question about SACS, and I was wondering how you were handling technology education, because it can't really be a push-in model with all their equipment, but I didn't know what was happening there.
In terms of utilizing the technology, is that?
Yeah, or like Vivian's program.
Oh, for STEM, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, STEM, sorry.
Yep. So we are actually going to be having Vivian go into classes, and she's going to be rotating through. There was a strong emphasis on maintaining the integrity of what has been built over the years. That is something that was loud and clear in terms of what the utmost importance of what we need to consider, what looked different. So obviously we can't have kids coming into her space as traditional, but she has had several meetings with Melinda. I know that Dr. Correnti has been involved in some of those conversations as well to ensure that we not only maintain but continue to build upon what Vivian brings to our school community from a STEM perspective. So I'd be happy to, once we have those plans formally in place and implementing them, give an update on that. But I can assure you that is still very much part of our planning.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yep.
This is Carl, actually, Gardner. So my kids got up and they took the bus today just like normal. So that was really great. Just like a normal day. We haven't had that in a while. I had a couple questions. One that follows from that, and I think Dr. Lutzy had this on the agenda, but it may be interesting to talk about while the principals are here. And it's with regard to electives, and especially at the high school. I know it seems like some of the electives were altered. For example, my son had done engineering last year, and there was not this year. So just would love to hear kind of about that change and what's driving it. And I'm also very interested in hearing about the outdoor classrooms. I would have loved to have gone to outdoor classroom every day when I was growing up. So I'm just wondering how many outdoor spaces are there and how do they get allocated among teachers who show interest in using them?
And speak on behalf of the middle school, if you like, for the outdoor spaces. We have a reservation system in place, if you will, where one of our main office secretaries, Ms. Sherwood, monitors all of the locations that we have on our campus that are available to go outside to ensure that there aren't any double bookings or anything. We're fortunate at SACS to be able to, we have such wonderful interior courtyard areas that provide that safe, secure environment where we're able to bring our kids outside. And we also have our traditional spaces that we utilize adjacent to the cafeteria for recess and physical education. So those areas are used as well. And then obviously the perimeter for mass breaks, we're fortunate to be able to have enough space all around the building to be able to do that. But for the specific learning environments, and we're continuing to build on those as well. We have right now 3 tents set up, but we're also communicating with staff that just because there isn't a tent there doesn't mean that you can't bring a class out and participate out there as well. So, so that's that reservation system that's in place at SACS.
At the high school? I'm sorry. Sorry, go ahead, Jen.
Okay, thanks. I was just going to speak, on behalf of the elementary schools. I know the way that West School is actually architecturally built, it's 3 separate buildings, and some of our buildings have courtyards in the middle of them. So we've been utilizing those spaces. We had been about 1/3 in completion of our outdoor learning center. So that's really been a great space for kids. We've added more picnic tables into that space and also added picnic tables outside. And the way our classrooms are situated in buildings 1 and building 2, our classrooms actually, we have fire escapes or fire windows that actually go right outside. So kids can actually go outside and be right outside the classroom in an outdoor space. And teachers have really given some explicit instruction about the difference between recess and an outdoor learning space and how they're utilized and they do different things. So we've been fortunate that way. And at West School, we have an enormous amount of property in the back. So we've been able to allocate different classrooms to different spaces. So they're always available unless it's raining to be able to go out there.
Just in terms of the other elementary schools, I know at East, we have, similar to what Jan was saying, designated our recess locations because every class stays in their cohort for recess. And then we have other locations that we've indicated to grade levels are available for math breaks or outdoor learning. And those are assigned by grade level. So the grade level team really manages their schedule in terms of who's going to use it at different times of the day. And now we have our 2 tents that are set up on site that will also be available for teachers to sign up to use. So we have that more in a reservation system for the whole school, similar to what Dave mentioned for SACS. And I know that our DTS department there, our tech department, is looking into the Wi-Fi and having that set up under those tents so that teachers have even more flexibility with what learning can occur in those spaces.
And we have the same thing. We have a lot of our classrooms have outside doors. I think Jan mentioned them earlier. We purchased plastic cube chairs, which are very light, and students can take those outside. And which many of the teachers are having them do. They also have some rubber mats that they could take outside to sit on when they go outside. And our bus platform is actually, it's covered. So even the other day when it was raining, we had, the bus platform is big enough where we just had the custodians put some folding tables out there with chairs, and they were able to go out because it wasn't a torrential downpour. They were able to go out and use the bus platform for some breaks. And then once it stopped raining, you were hearing people on the radio say, this is Mrs. So-and-so's class, we're going out to the tent area. But we're using a Google form where teachers can sign up. We blocked out times of the day where certain areas are being used for assigned recesses, but teachers can, we have 15-minute blocks. So if they want a half-hour block, they just sign up for what they want. And once somebody signs up, nobody else can take that spot for that amount of time that the teacher signed up for. And so far it's worked very well.
Great. Mr. Egan.
We're working on our sign-up space. We have plenty of space. The beautiful part about this time of year in New England is it's so wonderful, to be quite honest. You don't really need to be under a tent unless it's really kind of raining. But we do have 9 tents for our teachers to take classes out to that are utilized constantly. They're going to be designated by area. So, for example, the kind of, I guess we'll call them big top tents. The red and white ones will be more for VPA. Particularly the ensembles will be out there during their block that they have, and then the rest of VPA will have it for use for the rest of the day. And then the other departments will have access to the other tents as well. But there's plenty of space outside, and people are actually choosing to not necessarily utilize the tents. They're actually utilizing the property because it's been so wonderful out.
Do you want to speak about the electives, Bill?
Yeah, there was a couple of electives that did not run, like child development. We didn't want to have visitors coming on campus. Our Big Buddies program didn't run. But what we have done is we've reduced some class sizes to keep our class sizes down and expanded electives where we could. So I'm not quite sure what you were talking about, but we have looked at our like lab kind of electives and said, okay, well, how can we reduce that but still run the program, particularly like foods and things like that. So we've increased a couple of electives, but reduced the size and the scope to be able to run them. But I'm not quite sure.
How about, I think the question had to do with the Project Lead the Way engineering program. Any changes there?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is there a course that's not running that you're referring to?
According to my sophomore in high school,
yeah.
So it's a dubious source, that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 is being offered, which is what he did last year. And he said that there's one that the seniors are taking, and it's the ones in the middle seem to have gotten dropped. He's figuring out a workaround to see if he can do an independent study with his engineering teacher from last year.
It might also be that it's not offered during that period, but let me get back to you on that. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be an enrollment, number of students that signed up and whether or not we can run the course, or it could have been a hard conflict in a schedule. We'll get a little, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought it was COVID related, because it was a lab type environment that is a proximity issue or something.
Sure.
Not there.
Yeah, we are running our engineering classes. I went down and visited Mr. Zambrano just the other day, and they're at their desks working. So we'll get more info, Carl, and we'll follow up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yep. So the changes to the electives you mentioned, Bill, are the child development.
Correct. We actually didn't cancel it in its entirety. We pushed it to the spring. Hopefully we can have it. But there's a chance that may be canceled because we wouldn't have people coming on campus and, wouldn't have that program. I'm trying to think what other
changes to culinary. Culinary looks different than it did, things like that.
Right? It looks different because we reduced the numbers in there. So if they're doing, we've separated the class so the labs would be done individually while other students are working on something on their own versus having groups and lab spaces like that. We changed our science labs to offer lower course sizes, but no lab period.
Julie.
Thanks. I just had a question when you were talking about the tents in terms of security, and I guess it would be at all the schools really, but at the high school specifically, and then also I know you're encouraging students to do passing time outside, using as much outdoor space as they can. So just wondering how security measures have changed, because obviously I would assume that more doors are now unlocked, which were previously locked. So, just sort of steps that have been taken there.
So again, I'll speak on a district level, and then if anyone wants to fill in, they're welcome to. But you're right, because we are going outside more. So we're looking at our campus monitors and how we're deploying them. In the past, they were at the doors buzzing people in, but people aren't allowed in the building anymore, right? So we've been communicating through the first selectman that our campus is closed during the school day. So here at the high school, our campus monitors are stopping people if they do try to get on campus. It's a busy place. We have joggers, dog walkers, others. So they're stopping them. Our SROs are doing the same and just reminding them that our campus is closed. At the other buildings as well, the campus monitors are doing more exterior walks and patrols. We've also looked at our supervisory aides and how we deploy them. And we've also looked at our drivers, for instance, our van drivers. When they're not driving, they work in the schools to help out in certain ways. And now we're using them more to help around that external supervision as well. So we've focused on that. We've done a good job with sort of communicating around closing the campus and keeping an eye on the whole thing. And also when our teachers go outside, some have walkie-talkies, they have whistles, they have other pieces that make sure that they are safe and secure when they do that. Again, with the buildings are closed to the public, and with the campus secured. So we do have the scan cards at most of our doors. So when teachers take a class out, they use their IDs to scan their way back in, and they come back in that way. So we don't have to leave our doors unlocked because they have those access codes. Okay.
Yes, I just have another question. I'm not sure if Darlene's on. I'm not really sure who's on the call, but I just had a question about the teachers, and I've heard a couple people saying they have long-term subs in their classes, and I was just wondering, do we have teachers that are teaching from home, and do we have a lot of subs, and like just how are we doing on just teachers in our schools?
So we don't have teachers working remotely from home at all. And all of our teachers are currently in their classrooms. The substitutes that were being mentioned were added this year as part of a plan to make sure that we have enough substitutes in the building should we need them. So we just shifted over some of the substitute line item and hired a full-time sub to be in each of the buildings so that we're ensured we have that person on staff for this school year to help to cover some of the possible difficulties in possible teacher illness.
Patty?
I just wanted to say to the principals, as you all are getting used to the school year and particularly with the use of the outdoor space and the students and staff are using it, if you come up with the need for any additional equipment, including security cameras or anything like that, that you feel are, we need, please, bring them to the board or take them to Brian. This is certainly an unusual year, and we need to make certain that you have everything that you need to make the schools function well. So I know you know that, but I just wanted to make a public statement that I'm sure the problems that aren't quite solved that will arise or issues where you'll want to add to the security we already have.
Thanks. Great. So the only thing I'm going to share very briefly is I was speaking with a teacher just today who is an experienced teacher, very well respected across the district, and we were talking about the new year, and he said to me, in all of his years teaching, he maybe is most excited about this year because the work that he's doing now and how he has to learn a new way of doing it and working with kids and the way that the students are helping him to problem solve and get things going. He said it's exciting. It's exciting not to kind of know what challenges are going to come and be problem solving and figuring these things out. And he mentioned again the sort of the theme and the tone that we've taken since the very start, which was not to try to recreate what we had, but to create something new and special and uniquely the experience for these students and staff and everyone going through it. And it's with that spirit, I think, that our principals are approaching their work, that certainly our administrators across the district, our teachers, our staff, everybody, is looking at each day, not sort of counting the things that they don't have that they used to have, but looking forward to what new they're going to have as a result of where we are. So it is exciting, it's positive, and it's the right way to step into this experience together. So I want to say thank you to our principals, our assistant principals, our full complement of staff, because it really is working well, and it's the right spirit with which to approach this work. And we thank our parents and our students for their patience and kindness and understanding, because we're in it together, and we'll figure it out. So, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Usually I now say to our principals that they can go home, but now what I'm going to do is unpromote them, and I'm going to force them out. So,
are you sure they don't want to stay for the report?
Yeah, it is a financial report.
You know, I love that, Joanne.
I know you tell me every year you wish you could stay.
All right, Bill, I'll send you out first.
Bye.
There goes Dave, and here goes Chris. Goodbye, Chris. And here goes Matt. Goodbye, Matt. And last but never least, Jan. Thanks, Jan. And there we go.
Okay, well, Dr. Keating, year-end financial report
All
is
right.
up next.
So every year I always make a statement to the board that it's been a challenge to follow the principles because the reports are so wonderful and filled with excitement and all of that. But This year, I guess I can just say I'm overwhelmed with pride for all the work that they've done, and central office and the principals and the teachers, and it's beyond gratifying. So we can move forward with the financial report and talk about the 7 funds that we have responsibility for, and understand that all these resources help us get to where we need to be with the schools. But that was just awesome. Yeah. So
Joanne,
let's start with the general fund.
Joanne, before you dive in, I just want to share, I'm sorry to interrupt, just before you dive in, that the document we're going to be going through is available on our website, that if you go to ncps-k12.org, Board of Education, and it's presentations to the board. And so we just, before the meeting, put up the updated copy. I just wanted to make everyone clear, since we're not together where we have hard copies together. So take it away.
Okay, great. So the first fund I'm going to review is the general fund, the operating budget, which it really represents the bulk of our funding for the district. We were budgeted at $91,434,688, and for the first time in my career, I will tell you that I would never expect to underspend a budget by 2.3% or over $2 million. But again, I never thought we'd live through a pandemic in a school year. And as a result, that's where we stand at the end of this year. As we always go into the last quarter of the year, we're shutting down heating, bringing up air conditioning. There's different challenges that we have with special ed in different areas of the budget. And we're constantly trying to, we manage between all of our various objects, especially towards the end of the year. And a lot of those challenges did not present themselves this past year. So as a result, you're not going to see any transfers between objects in this particular final year budget report. So you won't be acting on the report tonight, but I'll go through all the various funds that we have and certainly field any questions that you have. So as I said, we spent 2.3% less than we had planned to spend for the budget year. And that represents approximately $2 million, a little bit over $2,078,556. Of that amount that we spent during the year, we actually spent on COVID-related expenses, out of that number, $187,576. And that was mainly with regards to providing technology support and tools for our remote learners and staff, and then purchasing some of the cleaning equipment that we wanted to get in-house as soon as we made decisions about what we needed. We did not want to be caught short in terms of timing and getting that equipment in. And then of our encumbrances at year end, we had $54,955 in encumbrances at year end, which is significantly low in a $91+ million budget. $11,881 of that number were COVID related. So as we closed out the year, we had asked the town boards to give us a non-lapsing account of $400,000 so that we could act quickly and react to some quick turnaround in terms of high leverage purchasing. And they set aside $400,000 of the $2 million that we had projected at in May that we would have remaining in the budget. So that was sent into a non-lapsing account. So the town basically will have 1.6 million plus going into their fund balance as a result of the school district underspending their budget for last year. So if there's anything in particular you'd like to review, let me know. You can go down the report. You will see that there were some minor transfers within objects to balance out some of the accounts. But you can see, just going through a budget, your far right-hand corner, all the various line items within the objects that had funds remaining. And it's pretty self-explanatory, I think. But again, if you have any questions, happy to answer. The second fund that we review and have access to funding from is the federal and state grants. We have approximately $1 million that come in each year for the grants. It's actually our carryover plus our current year award is $1.2 million. We spend about $1 million of that consistently each year. And it includes things like Title I, which is a reading and math support program, Title II, which is professional development, Title III, which is a smaller grant that Jill manages. And then we have our IDEA grants, which is the bulk of the grants, which exceeds $800,000. Those funds right there, for the most part, in the IDEA support salaries, and we budget for those salaries in the grant each year when we present our budget. As we do with the other grants, Title I pays for a salary, Title II pays for Jill's program, and Title III does as well. So those funds, it's pretty consistent year over year that we spend $1 million out of our appropriation of approximately $1.2 million. When you look at the report this year, you're going to notice something different than prior years in that we had more non-public appropriations this past year, and that would be for St. A's, St. Luke's, and the Country Day School. They didn't spend all of their funding. That's their prerogative. We set it aside based on their requests, and Jill provides that information to the state. We just record their expenditures as they incur them. So when you see those, you really don't manage them. We just provide the funding source, and then they determine whether or not they're going to spend those funds. So if there's no questions on that, I'm going to move on next to the school lunch program. So the school lunch program over the past several years has been a hot topic of conversation, as we know, from a financial perspective. And last year we had taken in the $500,000 in revenue from the insurance claim. And as a result, it showed that we had a much higher revenue stream last year, because we had to hit the revenue account for that $500,000 than we actually do in normal years, in prior years, and certainly in the current year. As a result, our fund balance went over $1.3 million. This past year, because we did not have a program in the last 3+ months, we actually incurred a revenue decrease from budget of $628,138. So that's the revenue side. We were down on the revenue side. On the expense side, we decreased our non-salary accounts, the food, the paper goods, the disposables, and those types of things by almost $300,000. So close to half, or 50% of that loss was not was offset by the fact that we just didn't spend the money for the product. However, we did make a decision to pay all of our staff. So by paying our staff, we incurred that expense. And so that was approximately 50%. When we included in that the $200,000 that we had set aside for health insurance, you probably recall that from the budget. We're pre-COVID as a board, and the administration, we thought it was appropriate to put $200,000 from our operations, because we were running over $200,000 profit annually, into the internal services fund. So that $200,000 plus the fact that we were paying the salaries really left us with $300,000+ in a decrease to our fund balance. So at the end of the year, when all was said and done and we closed out the books, our fund balance went from over $1.3 million down to $971. So when you look at that year over year, those are the reasons. We didn't have the revenue in the last quarter. We didn't have the food expense, but we did have the salary plus benefit expenses. So as you go down that statement, you'll see that it's pretty obvious when you take a look at the variances.
Hey, Joanne, I know it's not any detail, but can you just speak briefly about what the food service did in the spring? I mean, we did pay the salaries, but they did work as well.
Oh, definitely. They really stepped up to the plate. First of all, they did provide meals and prepared meals for our free and reduced population, which was close to 140 children in town. 5 days a week, we delivered, they prepared it, and Roy's team delivered those meals twice a week. And it was an amazing operation that Michelle Santelli and her team put together. The cafeteria, if you walked into the high school cafeteria, it was a sea of boxed lunch. And as this last quarter went through, week by week, they were reducing and preparing, and it really served a great need in the community. In fact, we had calls from numerous families just beyond grateful, some of them crying that we were able to do this for them. So it was a great thing. They also took over responsibility for that period of time for Meals on Wheels for the elderly. And so they would prepare the hot meals at the high school. They'd wrap them and package them for the volunteers to deliver out in the community. And they did that for 3 months. And then finally, they also supplemented the food pantry and provided food once per 2 weeks, I believe the schedule was, but it was a huge operation again. The entire cafeteria over at Saks was staged, and volunteers from the town would come in after we purchased the food and laid it out for them and prepare boxes of food for families. So they were very busy throughout. They all came in on a schedule. They all worked very hard, and we're very proud of them. They did a great, great job for the community.
Thank you, Joey. Yeah, those are the functions that they performed. Those functions, we didn't make revenue out of it. We didn't profit from those things, but boy, were they important and vital. So thanks.
Definitely, sure. So with regards to facilities rentals, there's not much difference there. Most of our facilities are rented out through the winter season with basketball, very little activity in the spring. So we have a profit of, I think it was $23,000 in this account, which is pretty typical year over year. It does pay for all of the direct costs. We try to keep it as cost neutral as possible. We like to add a little bit to the fund each year to retain money to replace things. And most recently, we contributed to the replacement of the gym floor in the high school. So there's nothing terribly revealing there. As far as the donations go, again, very consistent at $500,000, mostly from our PTC and the boosters, all parent driven for the most part. Just amazing. Again, everything from enhancing the academic experience at West with the outside learning area, to athletics, to performing arts, books, materials, renovations of playgrounds and courtyards, beautifying facilities, and so forth. And again, we just wanted to mention another extraordinary effort that went through the PTC, in which they donated over $5,000 worth of food cards for our most needy families. And we were able to get those distributed for them and out into the community where there was a desperate need. The summer program, again, that was just very same as in the past. We had a great summer program this past year. Jill probably could speak more to it, but they really became extremely innovative in terms of what they provided our students. A lot of creativity with virtual learning experiences and enhancement, and just a really great program. The two gentlemen that run the program really became very innovative and did a great job, and the kids certainly benefited from that. Lastly, the Internal Services Fund for our health benefits and employee benefits. It's on page 14 of the report. So just to recap for you, the sole health benefit program for the district is a high deductible health plan, and all of our employees are on that now that participate in our program. The plan design certainly appears to have had a positive impact on our claims over the past few years, as evidenced by a reduction in our overall cost. So the program has worked as it's supposed to. The claims for FY 2020 were $2.9 million below the original budget and $2 million below the revised budget. As you recall, mid-year when we went to the boards, this was a big topic of conversation in that, and we really were expecting to come below what our claims projections were originally for the budget. And that was taken into account when our budget was set this past year. So that's something that's very important to keep in mind. The reforecast was at $12,695,215 compared to the $13.6 million that was originally budgeted. So it was close to $1 million down at the reforecast. So as a result of the decrease in the claims experience, which we feel was directly related to COVID, and the fact that typical scheduled procedures had been delayed, some of them into the summer, which we certainly experienced a much higher claim experience during the summer, July and August, than we had planned for. So we're thinking that the $2 million less than the reforecast really is attributed to COVID and the fact that procedures did not take place. So when you take a look at the Internal Services Fund, and you'll see that the fund balance right now is $4,777,654. There's a few important things that you need to keep in mind of this number. When the budget was set at this for 2021, we anticipated using $3,730,931 of that $4.7 million budget. So all but 1 million had planned to be used, and that was broken down in two ways. One of the ways was the town's revised policy that we keep 40% of the corridor, or of the 20% corridor. That's $1,054,272. And in addition to that, which is very important, they had also designated $2,676,659 to offset the 2021 claims. So that's really important, because when people look at these financial statements, they can't, to think that, oh, wow, they have $4.8 million would be an incorrect observation, because that a good portion of that, 75% of that number, has been allocated out to those two items. That's covering the corridor that we're responsible for and the supplement to our 2021 budget. So that really, of that 4.7, if you take away 3.7, you have $1,046,000 remaining. As I just mentioned, we did experience higher than normal claims during the summer for our health insurance. It's approximately $550,000 just between July and August. So more than half of the balance of $1 million has been used already to offset claims above and beyond what was projected. So we're going to be really paying close attention with Joe Spurgeon's assistance, to analyze the claims on a monthly basis to understand where there's a lag from the second quarter of 2020. We do have concerns about this account if it continues to overexpend over the next few months. And again, we're going to keep a close eye on it and keep the board informed. Our concern, and we want to really explain this to the town officials, is that they look at these numbers and say, wow, you have a big number here that you can use for other purposes, because it's just really not going to play out that way. So I know that was a lot of information to throw at you. Yes, Brendan.
Just a couple of things. I mean, first of all, just on the internal services fund, I completely agree that it's really important that, the way this was set up, obviously, is to make sure that we're meeting our needs from an actuarial standpoint. And nothing's really changed in that regard. I mean, obviously speaking with Joe will make sense, other than essentially, I think, probably shifting a lot of procedures that people would have gotten done during the summer to the fall, or maybe even sometime later. So I think it's really important that we, not treat that money like it's available. It's there to make sure that we can, satisfy the claims as they come in. One question on the facilities usage. The way that account works is it's essentially cost based, right? So the costs in that account, for example, if over the winter we have challenges having programs in the gym, it's not like we're going to see a huge loss in that account. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Thank you.
Question, Joanne, since we've really never found ourselves in this situation, could you explain the accounting on the savings, the $2.1 million, what happens next?
So from an accounting perspective, there's no transaction. On the town side, what happens at budget time is they take our budget appropriations that have been approved, and they take all their other revenue and offset the appropriation, and then determine how much they need to levy taxes for. So they levied taxes last year for the $2.1 million. So what happens is, providing all those revenues came in, they'll have the receipt of that revenue coming in, but they won't have the expenditure. So as a result, what's going to happen is their fund balance, their undesignated fund balance, will grow by that amount.
Okay, thank you. Deanna?
Too many buttons to manage. I just to tag on to what Katrina was just saying, and sort of what you have also articulated, Joanna, it is important to, make the town aware that that fund balance that's in that account really isn't available for that, what are we at, 40-60 split. They can't really look at that for the accounting, at least in this period. They're going to really have to wait. I know, Brendan mentioned in another meeting, and I know personally I had a big procedure that had to be delayed, and I'm still waiting to get in. I can't even get through to my doctor. So, I think if you extrapolate many of us that are going through those kind of things, we could have a very big backlog on, just normal healthcare, procedures that need to be taken care of. And so, do you think, I guess this is maybe a Joe question, but maybe with your experience, how long do you think it could take to get through this backlog of, expenses? Because, we'll be going into budget season in November, December again. I know, I'm sorry to bring up a sore subject, but, at that point, will Joe be able to give us a sense of how much backlog we'll have worked through, or because that's going to be really important this year?
Yeah, I think that it's going to depend in large part on the pandemic itself and how, if we're going in the right direction for a long period of time. I'm sure service providers are going to want to get their patients in and provide the services that they need. If, however, that it doesn't and we have a bad turn, things could change dramatically like they did in the spring. So, he has all of these things, and Cigna is really being very careful in terms of how they're laying out claims experience so that we do have a good understanding of what's COVID related and what's procedural related. And he's able to analyze the claims based on all the codes that are associated with those types of procedures. But he'll come in. I'm sure Brian will be asking me to have him come in sooner than later to talk to the board about this. It's a very complex dynamic right now.
It might be helpful, and I don't know how much time Cigna has, or if this is a Joe question, but, because they have so much data with all their client base, it may be helpful to get a sense of, how we relate to other districts, or, how much are we off? Because it at least we can bring that to our, funding bodies to say, we're not atypical. This is, a normal thing during an abnormal time. And so at least we can kind of share where we stand versus peers.
Sure.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Oh, Penny, go ahead.
Just one quick comment with respect to the 2 million or the 1.6 million after the lapsing account was spent. We talked about it at the last meeting, but I think it's important for the public to know that we had extraordinary expenses this summer to get ready for opening school during a pandemic, and that will be going. We're tallying that up. We're not ready for that final report, but we'll be going back to the Board of Finance in October because we will need to add a significant amount, if not all of the 1.6 million back into our budget because of the COVID-related expenses. So we'll be reporting on that, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there. In a way, it's a little bit like the health insurance. We were going to have the expenses, but we couldn't incur them last year. They were incurred in this year.
That's right. Thank you.
Right, and I'll just quickly share that in the midst of all of the ordering and balancing everything that had to be balanced and figuring all of that out on the financial side, Joanne and her team, they also managed to close out the books, put together this report, and continue to do all of the work that always has to get done. That's a full-time job. And then with the pandemic and the ordering and managing and navigating all of that on the financial end, it's really been, I know it's a theme that you're hearing across the board, but it's really been an enormous amount of work. And I just want to say thank you to Joanne, to Tracy if she were here, and the whole team over, business and finance team, because it's been a lot of long hours in putting all of this together. But it's wonderful to sit here confidently knowing it's done well and done right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I would echo those thanks, and I understand that it's going to continue to be complex accounting going forward as well as we move forward in this world. So thank you for your continued hard work on this. Okay. So that wraps up our reports and recognition. We'll move into our action items. First is a Board of Education resolution, and we are look for a motion to approve the following Board of Education resolution. Be it resolved that the New Canaan Board of Education hereby codifies its longstanding practice of delegating to the Curriculum Leadership Council, or the CLC, as overseen by the Superintendent of Schools, the responsibility to review, develop, recommend, and approve the curriculum of the New Canaan Public Schools as provided in Connecticut General Statute Section 10-220E. The Superintendent of Schools shall at least annually report to the Board of Education at a public meeting on the activities of the CLC and the curriculum of the New Canaan Public Schools. Brendan?
A motion?
Yeah, I have a motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll move that.
Second.
Can I comment as well, or no?
Let's discussion, and then we'll get
First, you need a second.
Yeah.
Second.
You can't second your own first.
Jen will second. So, okay, discussion. Brendan.
It's hybrid.
Shocking, I want to talk.
Yeah.
Confusing.
So this is something that I've been supportive of for a while. I know there's been some historical discussion and debate on the topic, but I really think that our role as a board is to provide guidance and not just do it at a high level, but at a detailed level as well. And I think we do that really effectively because we have an administration that reports in a detailed way to us regularly about just about everything that goes on in the New Canaan Public Schools. And I think, I am aware of other towns, other districts that do things differently, but I really like the way that we do things in New Canaan. Which is to leave the development of curriculum, the selection of media and things like that, textbooks, books, et cetera, to the people who are, trained and have, hundreds of years collectively of experience, delivering the absolute best education to our kids. And I think that the proof is in the pudding, that we have been doing it the best way possible. So I'm 100% in support of codifying this.
Any other discussion? Okay, with that, we'll have, Bob?
Thank you. So, I'd like to talk about this a little bit. So I've been doing some research. Every other school district in our DIRG has a curriculum committee, but these are committees that are held in public, open meetings with agendas, minutes. Here's the Greenwich one. You can see they have meeting dates throughout the year. So I think the purpose of the law, I don't think anybody disputes the how great the curriculum here is in our town. I think some of the process is what the question is. The law actually says that committee is formed by this board, and by that fact, it should be follow FOIA, which means it's a public committee. I know that's the dispute or that's the discussion. I don't see how this motion really changes that fact. So. I guess that's what I want to understand. So is this committee, are we saying that it's going to be operated in a public forum or not?
No, you want to?
So I'll speak to it. Sure, gladly. This resolution here is codifying the practice that's existed, which is aligned with the policies of the Board of Ed and delegating the decision-making around curriculum and others to the superintendent of schools and, through me to the
Right.
deputy superintendent, and to others.
So,
It's not changing our practice. It's essentially really clarifying it, because there were a couple of questions as we do our goals. The curriculum's always woven throughout our goals. So we felt that it would be important for people to understand when we talk about revising or working through a curriculum, what that process is. And, for the board to, just sort of I'll use the word codify it and clarify it.
right. So, well, I mean, like I said, everybody should look and do their own, investigation, but we're only, us and Darien are the only two districts in our DIRG that doesn't have public meetings on this. Everybody else does.
And it is, if you look statewide, you'll find a variety of different approaches.
I'm sure.
Yep.
I picked our DIRG.
Yep.
So I guess I'd like to just ask for a point of information on that particular law. Which means we have to figure out what that law means before we vote on it.
Well, the resolution itself comes directly from the board's attorney. So their advice to the board would only be in alignment with the law and what's appropriate underneath that law. So this does come directly from the board's attorney.
I think we have a couple.
Isn't there like a bit of a conflict of interest in that attorney right now? Isn't there something? There's a FOIA complaint right now. So how does that? Shouldn't we maybe get a different attorney for an opinion? Or maybe we should use the attorneys that the other school districts use that all put it in public.
Well, many of them use the same firm. Really, it's the Board of Ed's approach.
Yeah.
And so the Board of Ed, is guided by their attorneys, but decides how they want to approach the development of curriculum.
Got it. Okay. I even have I have something here that Tom Mooney himself wrote that said it's supposed to be a public agency and therefore public. So anyway, that's a discussion.
Okay, we'll pause there because we have a couple people who want to speak. Deanna and then Jen.
So I guess I'd like to start off with referencing the district that you held up a piece of paper about and their curriculum development. And having watched one of their board meetings when they went to approve a math textbook and the divisiveness and quite frankly, I watched it in horror because most of the people on that board had no idea how to look at a math textbook. And I would argue that besides maybe, I don't know, Julie might, on our board as an educator, might have the ability to look at some of the textbooks that we're looking at. Most of us bring to this board different expertise, and it isn't in education-specific, areas, and we look to our education experts to give us guidance on what is right for our district. And, to reiterate what Brendan said, our results are, state leading, national leading, and we're having much better results than sort of the district that you brought forward.
Well, just
who
one
doesn't.
pick.
No, I'm just saying that, if we were not having the results that we were having, we may want to look at a different system. But I've been on this board for 7 years. I've felt very included in any changes to the district's curriculum through presentations to the board. The administration has been unbelievably responsive when we have had issues. I will take into an example of the standard-based grading. We have had concerns about that. The district has not rolled that out any more extensively because we have not gotten comfortable with that. So while we might not be in every single meeting, we are regularly briefed on any kind of curriculum changes that may be looked at, and I do not feel like I'm in the dark. And I do not feel like I don't understand the broad-based approaches that the district's taking and any changes that might be made. So, and I don't think I'm equipped to look at specific textbooks. I mean, I don't think I would add value in that area. And, you know, it might be insulting, quite frankly, to the people who are experts in that area.
Jen?
I completely agree, Deanna. I am fully in support of this. And, you know, I know we did discuss who the Curriculum Leadership Council is. Jill, can you just, I mean, we have these people are experts when they go through our curriculum, as you are. Like, would you just remind us, like, who exactly is on this committee?
So the Curriculum Leadership Council consists of all the department chairs at the high school. It consists of all the K through 8 coordinators and the 2 elementary coordinators. It also consists of our K through 12 administrators. So that would include Alan from VPA, Alan Sneath, Lizette D'Amico for World Language and ELL, Matt Salvestrini for Technology, and then the 3 special education administrators are also part of the CLC.
Okay. All right, seeing no further.
Sherry.
Oh, Sherry, sorry, missed that.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to also concur, and I thought that was really well said by both Deanna and Jen. And I definitely concur with following the board's attorney's counsel on this and codifying our practice. I think as a board, our most important job is to hire the superintendent, who in turn hires the educational experts who develop the curriculum. And then we as a board, our through line is monitoring the results of that through our assessments, which we do on a regular basis. I am not in any way in favor of adding a public process here. I think there definitely is a time and place for gaining input and hearing different voices. But I don't think, having a public curriculum committee is effective. I think I'd want to highlight on our DEI goal, how we've added a specific point about hearing the voices of color and the voices of our students. I think that's a great example of what, how we do that, when we do that, at the appropriate times. But I strongly support this, codifying this practice as is.
Deanna?
And, I'd just like to also add that the public has a voice through communication with board members. I get communication from parents who are concerned about things, and we raise them. That is our role. If people are hearing things or seeing things, they communicate. I mean, I know Katrina gets the emails, I get emails and phone calls, all board members get emails and phone calls. And if there is concern in the community about anything that we're doing in the district, that's what we're here for. And then we bring them to the administration. So there is a role for the parent feedback, and it's through us.
Yep, all said. And I would add that I too fully support this resolution. So without further comment, we'll take a vote for those in favor.
No, I have a comment. Sorry,
Okay,
I turned my video off.
Oh, Carl.
So, I mean, this is a process question, and the process for setting up this question for a vote, I find to be lacking. There's been very little discussion in this regard, certainly as a group, and it's an important policy question. And so this is a governance matter. So this is an institutional matter. It has nothing to do with the people that are here now, because those people can go and they will go eventually. So the players on the field will change, and that's why you have institutional governance. And there should be formal mechanisms and checks and balances for the public to have a say in curriculum. It does not take a great leap of imagination to think about situations where people can have honest disagreements about curriculum that should have a full airing and civil discussion. So for me, I cannot vote for this. It's, first of all, it seems rather rushed, certainly from my perspective, in terms of the discussion that's gone into it. I don't understand this enough. And the fact that it's coming for a vote where someone on the board feels that way probably says that it's not ripe for a vote. And it has serious process and policy and governance ramifications.
Brendan. And then Penny. Oh,
Did you call me? Okay.
go ahead, Penny, and then Brendan.
Go ahead, Penny. Go ahead.
Okay. So I just want to say just a bit of perspective, having been on the board a little bit longer. We actually have discussed this, many times at the board, what the role of the board is. And and the board is also, over time, it has helped construct the curriculum leadership team that we have. I mean, it was the board decision to hire all the curriculum leaders at various times. It was a board decision to bring on, the whole FLES program. So in my view, the board actually has been tremendously involved at the high level where I think it's appropriate in setting the curriculum for the school district and keeping it moving forward and having a 21st century view for the curriculum. This is, we haven't codified it before. If people think we should have a second read or something on it because we haven't done that before, that wouldn't be that. I mean, that's a possibility, but it's not a surprise in terms of what the policy has been for this board and how we've created the outstanding curriculum that's brought the district to the level where it is. So I just wanted to give that perspective, as a board member, that this is how this reflects the pattern and practice of the school district for the last, I think, probably 30 years. I mean, at least that I've been on for a long time, and for my friends who were on before, this is how they handled it as well.
Go ahead, Brendan.
I totally acknowledge that I'm new to the board, and I, respect and defer to those that have been on here for a long time and look for, learning from them. But now we're all on the board together now. I'm not in a place where I could vote on this with good conscience based on my understanding of the issue.
Brendan.
Yeah, a couple of points. One, I think it's fair if we want to, go to a second read on this. I'd prefer not, but but it's, if we want to discuss it more, it is what it is. I agree with Penny that I think, on two fronts. Number one, this isn't, policies of the board are not set in stone. They're policies that could be changed in the future. So to the extent, for example, a year from now, 5 years from now, we get a science presentation about new curriculum, or we get 50 calls from parents, maybe from some teachers saying this is terrible curriculum, we need to change it. There are things that we can do to do that. And to Deanna's point, there are things that we have done and questions that we've raised to address these sorts of issues. But whether we want to discuss it again, at a follow-up meeting, I'm open to that if people would like to do it. I still think that, this makes sense to move forward with.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that this is not changing anything. It's just codifying what's already in practice. So I certainly would be supportive if we were making a change to have another read and to discuss it further. But this is truly just formalizing a process that's been in place for a very long time and that has served our district very, very well.
So if something has no meaning, then why vote on it?
Because it clarifies. People have asked the question in the goals as they look at curriculum, how is it developed? What is the process we follow? And so then if this points to this practice with the CLC, with the board support.
I mean, Carl, people have specifically asked us, how are you complying with Connecticut General Statutes 10-228? I mean, and we've told them in the past, this is how we comply with it. And I think that this motion is an effort actually to be very, open about that and to have it on the record so that, because it's a valid question for people to ask. Because that is one of the, it is part of the Connecticut law. So I think I don't think this is meaningless at all. I think it's basically stating what we're doing, and it's making our practices more see-through, for everyone.
I think the ultimate in transparency is to be transparent, but from a process point of view, also, like this didn't come through the governance committee. It just ended up on this agenda tonight. So, I mean, at a minimum, I would think it would have went through that committee before it came here.
I don't know. To me, sorry.
Go ahead.
Raise hand. To me, if we're going to discuss it as a board, we should just discuss it as a board. And if we feel like we need, more time to make a decision, let's talk about it at our next meeting and make a call. But this is something that we've been doing. So if people have concerns about it, you can voice your concerns. And if people are supportive of it, then they could voice that they're supportive. And we make a decision as a board. It's not a complicated question or codification.
Deanna?
So I tend to agree with with Katrina's assessment of, this isn't new policy. This is just codifying what we have in place. And I would officially like to call the question.
Okay. All right. With that, those in favor? Okay. Brendan, are you?
We can't see you,
Brendan, are you voting?
Okay. So all in favor? Opposed?
I can't hear.
Opposed. The vote is opposed to the, okay, so it's 7-2. Any abstentions? No. Okay. Thank you very much. So moving on to our final topic is our goals and objectives for second read and for approval. And in the same place that the year-end financials, the goals do appear, the version that we're reviewing tonight, they appear on our website as well, in the Board of Ed section under presentations. Is that right? Presentations to the board?
Right.
Dr. Lutzy?
Presentations to the board.
Okay,
Yep.
for anyone wishing to look at those.
So I'll just, as we have before, I'll just quickly touch on the changes as a result of our last conversation, and then open it up to discussion. So in 2C, with a block schedule, some language was added there. It's to implement a block schedule at NCHS using a 4-period AB block schedule, provide ongoing updates to the board that include academic, social, emotional, and physical goals and anticipated outcomes for students in various scenarios. And then what's added is for current year and consideration in future years. So frames out what those presentations will include. The next substantive change occurs on goal 4, I believe. Yep. On goal 4, objective 2, 2A is collaboratively initiate a process facilitated by a DEI content expert to develop a district-wide statement along with long and short-term DEI goals. So that tried to capture the conversation. We had expert facilitator, but really shifted to content expert instead to help facilitate this process for us. B remains the same. C has been rewritten, as you see it there. Highlight existing educational opportunities available to students, and with student input, develop plans that are focused on increasing sensitivity towards issues of DEI and preparing them as global citizens. 2D has changed, continue partnering with community agencies and experts. And then 2E, continue to provide students with culturally responsive learning experiences and expanding the implementation of curriculum, culturally responsive literature. And then F, social studies curriculum. And then 3, under goal 4, objective 3, there's an addition F, which is to continue discussions on the development of an MOU between the NCBOE and New Canaan Police Department regarding a canine policy. So there's some periods and some other sort of editing changes that are in there, but that's, I think, those are the largest substantive changes for review, discussion, and/or approval.
All right, thank you. Any comments?
So I'll start by, so with regard to the goals, so with respect to DEI, a huge part of it, for example, well, probably the most important part, or one of the most important parts, will have to do with curriculum. And here we just had that vote. So this is a great example where I don't get it.
Sure. So I think what you're talking about is F, right, with the curriculum piece, the social studies. And
well, yeah, and that will be that's the tip of the iceberg. There'll be, this would entail large changes in the curriculum, and I'm pretty sure that people will have opinions on those, and those opinions should be heard.
Sure.
That the whole point of this is that if we're going to effectively achieve this, it's about having a conversation, a real conversation.
Sure. So
and people need to be able to lend their views, and yet we just took a vote on something that is going to potentially forestall that.
Well,
so
2 quick points,
this just is, it strikes me as very odd.
Well, yeah. The F, here we're talking about understanding our current practice, right? This isn't about changing anything. It's to provide an update for the Board of Ed on this curriculum. It's been 5-6 years? 2015. Since 2015, so it's been 5 years since we've had an update from the Social Studies Department on their efforts and their work. So this is not any change. This is to part of our understanding of current practices and to have the Social Studies Department come to us. Share with us an update on what they're doing and how they're aligning with the existing standards, which is to help us in 2A as we work to develop statement and to develop those long and short-term goals. But really, again, it's not changing our current practices. It's presenting to the board what those current practices are to understand that.
No, I'm all for what's in the goals. What I'm saying is the vote that was just taken on the change in how we do curriculum is antithetical to what we're now about to embark upon.
Well, you use the word change though, Carl. We didn't change.
The point. That's the point that I'm making.
But we haven't changed our practices in any way. What we just voted on was literally to make clear to whoever needs to know how we do this work around curriculum. That hasn't changed a thing. That's exactly how we've been doing it for, I don't know, as far back as we have any records. Dr. Crenton?
Yeah, so I just want to clarify that in 2015, the reason we did a presentation to the Board of Education was because the state of Connecticut passed the new social studies standards. So everything that we design around our curriculum comes from national and state standards, and that's how you have to design your curriculum. So the 2015 update that we did was when the state had passed those standards. We talked about how we were implementing those standards, and we haven't changed our social studies curriculum since. However, we thought that it would be a good idea to come back and share with the Board of Ed what we've been doing with our curriculum. So right now, it's our current 8th graders who've had that opportunity to really benefit from the changes that we've made in our social studies curriculum. So we wanted to really give the Board of Education an update about that. And some of those social studies standards actually do relate to this goal. And so that was part of why we put it in. But it's not to change curriculum. It's more to give you an update of what's currently practiced.
Okay, Julie.
And I was going to say, Carl, if you're thinking of like letter A there on subcategory 2, I guess the way I look at it is that we're inviting the public, or the public has every right, not only through just the regular channels of calling us and writing us and attending meetings and making their public comments, but also at whatever point we're, sort of officially listening and gathering the points of view of all those who want to share with us, that's great. Like, we want to hear all that input, but then ultimately, again, and this goes back to what we just voted on, the folks who are then creating the curriculum, who are adapting it, those are the professionals. So, but they're using the input that they get from the public to go ahead and formulate that curriculum. So to me, that's the difference.
Brendan?
Yeah, in addition, I agree with you, Julie. I think our expectation is that, in particular, when we create goals that are detailed like this, our expectation and our experience with the administration has been that they come to us and present the details of what they're doing. I mean, start times is a perfect example of that. This will be another example, I'm sure, in the upcoming year and beyond, where we'll get a lot of detail, such that this will essentially be a public discussion around how to develop this particular element of our goals. So it's not, I don't really view this as, taking a step back or pushing this into a back room or anything like that. I think it's exactly the opposite, which is we're gonna have a pretty large hand in how all this gets developed, and we're gonna understand, all the various elements of it.
Okay. Any other feedback or comments on our goals? All right. Looks like we're ready for a vote. So motion to approve is a second reading, the 2020-2021 district goals and objectives as presented and revised. So we already have our first, yes.
First read,
So
it's just,
that's right. So
yep.
it's okay. All in favor?
Do we have to approve the revisions and then because we only.
That's true. Make a motion to approve the revisions.
First.
Okay, back up. So is there a motion to approve the revisions as made to the goals in the second read? Jen, second. Sherry, all in favor? Okay. Opposed? Bob? Okay. And motion to approve.
No, vote to approve.
Vote to approve, sorry.
Second
Yes.
reading of the goals.
Okay.
Yep. As amended.
Okay. Vote to approve the second reading of the goals as amended. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. All right. Thank you. Glad to have our goals for the year. All right.
Kids in school. That's our goal.
Yes. All right. Public comments. Is there anyone wishing to address the board? Please indicate so by raising your Zoom hand.
Okay. We have Lauren. Okay, Lauren?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, great. I'm using NCPS for my second grader, so thank you. I'm here first and foremost to thank each and every one of you, and I'm going to try not to get emotional in doing so. The joy that my children have experienced in the last week and a half in returning to NCPS has been just a sight to behold. So I know that I'm sure this summer and spring was not what any of you had planned. And I know that you worked harder than you've ever worked in your lives, or I mean, on many a thing, but particularly this. You've done something without a guidebook, without a roadmap, and it's exceptional. So I thank you from my home and from the homes of so many parents across NCPS. So just know that our gratitude is enormous. And I do also just want to say before I sign off here, I come also tonight to voice my support again for the DEI goals. And I thank you for the vote and the attention and the time and the care and the listening that each and every one of you have done. So with that, I wish you all well and many, many thanks and best wishes for good health and a continued excellent school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, anyone else?
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Announcements and future business. Dr. Lutzy?
Sure. So in 2 weeks, on Monday, we have our next meeting together with the Board of Education. At that point, we'll be going into detail around COVID expenditures, some of the financials around that, so for understanding, at least as far as we can get with all of that, and continue forward. So 2 weeks. We get back on track in our meeting cycle now as we get into the school year.
Okay. All right. Motion to adjourn. Deanna, second. Brendan, all in favor? Okay. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice work.
Thank you.